With more people than ever working from home, one of the hottest trends in real estate is to purchase a second home and take advantage of the short-term rental market. Think about how much you spent per night the last time you rented an Airbnb. Now multiply that number by 30. If that owner rented their property for a full month, that's how much they'd collect from nice people like you. Aaron Goldstein, the owner of Gold Group Realty, is helping turn people who pay rent into owners collecting checks. If you've ever considered owning a rental property in Florida, now is the time, and he can help you crunch the numbers. Florida, because spring break doesn't have to end. Welcome to this week's Who the Folk podcast. I'm Lonnie Goldsmith, the editor of TC Jewfolk. This week, I'm thrilled to talk with Carli Shapiro, Jewfolk's first development officer, ahead of her start on the job this week. We talk about where her desire to work in the nonprofit world comes from, what brought her to the Twin Cities, and what she's going to be bringing to Jewfolk on this week's Who the Folk podcast. But before we hear from Carli, this podcast is supported by the Newman School at Talmud Torah of St. Paul, where academic excellence and Jewish values meet, teaching analytical and critical thinking skills that are necessary to thrive in a complex world. Now enrolling grades K through 5. Learn more at ttsp.org/Newman. Carli Shapiro, welcome to the Who the Folk podcast. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
I am too, because you're Jewfolk's new development officer. You have actually, as we are speaking, you have not technically started yet. By the time you are listening to this, it will be a day or two before you officially start on April 26th. And we are thrilled.
I am so excited, so ready to get started. It'll be amazing.
It will be. And I got to tell you, it's sort of weird for me because when I joined the staff a little over 6 years ago, it was me and Libby Parker, the executive director. That was it. And now we've got so many people that are part of the Jewfolk team. It's really exciting to sort of watch what we've become over this time.
It's definitely one of the things that drew me to Jewfolk is just seeing how much it's grown. I'm from out of state, and so throughout college, Jewfolk was kind of my view into Minneapolis and the Jewish community. So I've seen it grow over the last 5-6 years. And I'm so excited to be a part of that growth. I know you and Libby and the entire team have such amazing views for the future too, right? You're growing, but there's even more growth ahead. And so it's really exciting.
Yeah, we got plans. We can't talk about them yet, but we got stuff is cooking in the lab. Don't worry. But you mentioned you're from out of town. Where are you from, and what was it that brought you to the Twin Cities area?
Yeah, so I was originally born in northern suburbs of Chicago, lived there for a few years, and then my family moved to Milwaukee when I was about 6 or 7. So I usually say that I'm from Milwaukee because it's a little bit easier, but my whole family's in the Chicagoland area. So I grew up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and decided to go to the University of Minnesota for college. I graduated with a degree in marketing and nonprofit management. So that nonprofit piece has always been in my blood. So I fell in love with Minneapolis and the Twin Cities. And so I decided to stay after college. And of course, COVID came in. So thankfully I got to stay here, which was really amazing. And I'm excited to get more part of the Twin Cities Jewish community as well.
Does the nonprofit piece, obviously, you studied it in school, but so you have sort of the schooling background, but does it come from the family? Was it something that had always been very much ingrained from, within your family growing up?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I like to say I grew up on a healthy diet of philanthropy and nonprofit. So my parents have both been very involved in the nonprofit Jewish community, of course, in Chicago and then in Milwaukee as well. So my dad is the president and CEO of the JCC in Milwaukee. And so I grew up pretty much from the minute I was born involved in the Jewish community. I was very involved in Jewish camping. So that was a huge piece of my life. So being involved in that from the minute I was born. A good example is for my bat mitzvah project. I raised money and I started an endowment fund at the JCC in Milwaukee for scholarship to go to camp. So that fund's still up and running. So, even at
That's
13,
amazing.
That's what I was doing. So it's definitely been a part of my life for a long time.
Oh, that's so cool. So Milwaukee, Jay, you're probably an Interlaken kid then?
Yes, I'm an Interlaken girl. This will actually be my first summer that I will not be either attending or working at a camp for my entire life, but especially since I started as a camper at Interlaken. So it's a little sad, but it's a good reason not to be.
It is sort of weird that transition that happens when you sort of age out necessarily, but you find something that's outside of the camp world.
Absolutely. I mean, so before my dad was the president of the JCC, he worked at Camp Shy, which is a Chicago Jewish overnight summer camp. My mom worked there for 23 years, my dad for 13. So I grew up not in the usual setting of, you go to camp for a few years and then you work, because my parents worked full time at a camp. So we've never had the discussion of, time to move on. So
right.
that was never a conversation. Lots of people are like, okay, you got to go get an internship or go get a real job. That was a real job. So it's weird for me to not be spending my whole summer there. Hopefully I'll get to go visit and be there, but it's definitely a weird feeling.
Given their connection to Shy, I'm actually surprised I didn't cross paths with them because for almost 3 years in the early 2000s, I worked for the JCC of Chicago.
Oh,
I was the sports director and boys camp director because it was in West Rogers Park in the Orthodox neighborhood. So
yeah,
I was a JCC employee for until 2002 when we moved here.
Wow, that's such a small world. Yeah, I'm sure the paths were crossed because we moved in 2004. So my dad was I think he was the director of Pearlstein at that time.
Okay.
I don't know if it would have been Shy at that time, but honestly, I
think it was still Shy at that time.
So
you wouldn't know. No, it was definitely Shy then. So that's interesting. Okay. No, I can't. I'm shocked that we didn't cross paths at that point. Your parents and I, not you and I. You were barely born. Okay, so
I'm sure when my mom listens to this, she'll call me and be like, "Okay, I know Lonnie because I did this and this and this." So we'll find the connection.
and it was like half my life ago, so it's entirely possible. But they're like, "Yes, we met several times. He's a dope," and which may not be incorrect either, depending on who you ask. Okay, we will go away from Chicago Jewish geography. So you came to the U for school. Where did you sort of find your Jewish connection, your Jewish niche that you were trying to get into when you got to the U?
It was such a weird experience for me coming to the university. I remember on my tour, and Benji Kaplan from Hillel, we joke about this. When I went on my tour back when I was a junior in high school, we did the whole, tour. And at the end, they were asking questions. And I asked the question, are there any Jews on campus? Is there a Hillel? Is there, everything? And the tour guide was like, no, there's no Hillel. We don't have a lot of Jews. I don't know. And so he was wrong, obviously.
Clearly.
But we joke about that because I got really involved in Hillel. It was the first time in my life that I actually had to seek out Judaism. I grew up, very involved in the Jewish community in Milwaukee, so I didn't have to look very far. And it was the first time that I actually had to make the conscious decision to go be a part of the Jewish community and go seek it out for myself. Didn't take very long. It was literally, I think, the first Friday. And through Jewish geography, I met a friend, Rachel, and our parents knew each other. So we were, awkwardly Facebook messaging, being like, should we be friends? Do you want to go to Hillel with me? And so I remember we all met up in Superblock where all the freshman dorms were, and everyone kind of awkwardly walked over to Hillel together, and the rest is history. I got super involved with Minnesota Hillel, And that was really the place where I was able to become a part of the Twin Cities Jewish community and help grow as a leader and as a Jew. And it was a really amazing experience.
It's so funny that they would say that. Like the Hillel building, it's like even before the renovation, which is amazing. But even before that, it was it's a very distinctive building. The exterior,
absolutely,
very distinctive. Right on University Avenue.
Exactly. We did figure out that it was obviously not this past construction that happened a couple of years ago, but back when I was touring, they were going through a little bit of an update. So it was under construction a bit. So I'm hoping that that's the reason why they weren't so sure.
I hope so. That's not a great tour guide if that's the case.
Exactly.
So was it always the you that you were interested in? Were there other school? I guess, what was it about? Obviously they tried to tell you there was no Jewish community here. Obviously you were undeterred.
Yeah. So I knew that I wanted to stay in the Midwest. There wasn't really a big part of me that was like, I need to get away or anything like that. So I wanted to stay close to family. And the reciprocity for Wisconsin doesn't hurt. But so I remember I had narrowed it down pretty much to either Madison or the University of Minnesota. And in the end, I truly, it's going to sound cliche, but I truly had that gut feeling when I got there. I remember on my tour, it was a gross, rainy day. It was kind of cold. And my parents are like, ugh, she's not going to like it. It's gross out. It's just a bad presentation of the school. But I just had this feeling of, I just knew I had to be here. And then specifically, I got into the business school, and that was a really amazing experience that I felt like I couldn't pass up. And then on top of it too, I found out that the business school was offering this nonprofit management course. At other schools, the nonprofit, if they even had it, was in a different area. And so I thought it was really a cool opportunity to get that business degree and be in the business school, but also a focus on nonprofit. So I was like, I couldn't pass that up.
No, for sure. That's fantastic. So since graduation, obviously you graduated in the middle of COVID and everything. What have you been doing, since graduation before you start with us?
Yeah. So, graduated in May of 2020. I was home. I did graduation from my living room. So that was a very weird experience. And I was one of the many that did not really have a job after after graduation. Right. Some people were lucky and, had a job lined up. I did not. So I was very nervous. And I did get a position with a company called Oasis Senior Advisors in Milwaukee. I was brought on to be a marketing intern for the summer. And instead they kept me on as a full-time senior advisor. And so I spent the last 2 years with them, helping seniors find assisted living and other supportive care environments. And it was an incredible experience. They really took a chance on me. I had no experience in the industry and they taught me everything. And I had such an incredible experience for the last 2 years with them. So I was really amazed to be a part of that organization and I learned a lot.
But, now we stole you and that, now we still, and you get to work in the field that you wanted to work in anyway.
Absolutely.
Which is an added bonus.
100%. It's something that I've found amongst my peers a lot, that everyone's kind of moving into that job they really hoped they would get now, right? We all kind of took whatever we could during COVID, and now everyone's starting to get a little more settled into, the job we hoped for or the one that we had went to school for, in my case. So it's interesting to see that growth and that change. But, very thankful for Oasis and that job, but really excited to get back into something that I'm so passionate about and went to school for.
So are you here in the Twin Cities now?
I am.
Okay.
Yep. Yep, live right over in St. Louis Park, dangerously close to Yum. It's
Oh, that's
it's good and it's bad. It's way too
that's
close.
really dangerous. That's a,
Yeah.
I mean, you're right. It's good and bad.
Mhm.
Tough spot to be though.
Yeah.
This cupcakes look awfully good.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They're just like
Good test
screaming
of
at me to
willpower.
walk by. Exactly.
So, what are you hoping for as you sort of grow into this opportunity and settle in?
Yeah, I'm hoping to, keep strengthening my connection to the Twin Cities Jewish community. I think when it comes to this role and this position, a lot of it is building relationships and understanding, how TCG folk can help the community. And it already is such a pillar in this community. It brings people together. And so I see this role as trying to expand that and help people find their connection to Judaism. One thing that really stood out to me about Jewfolk is their mission and their value to connect people to Judaism in the ways that they want to be. How can we meet people where they're at when it comes to their Judaism? And so I'm really excited to get back into the Jewish community and help people find their connection to Judaism.
Which is great. And I think that's really where Jewfolk does so much good for the community, is that we don't care if you're a synagogue member, don't care how engaged you are with other things, but if you're Jewish and you want to find some form of connection to the Jewish community, then we can help you with that.
Absolutely. It's, I think that's where the future of the Jewish people lie. And not as many people want to do the standard practice of, whatever your grandparents did or your great grandparents. People are finding their own ways to connect to Judaism. And I think Jewfolk really provides them so many outlets to do so. And I think that's what's going to keep people connected to Judaism, is figuring out, what do they want? How can we meet them where they're at?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, speaking of things Jewish, we'll end with the two questions we always end on. First, what is your favorite Jewish food?
Challah. I gotta say, challah. During COVID, I got in the habit of making my own challah, which was really fun. So I got to perfect a recipe. And so, anytime you can get a fresh baked challah, that's the best.
And we are a challah baking household too. We always prefer to bake rather than find it somewhere. And it's a lot of fun to do, but B, it just tastes so much better.
It tastes so much better. It takes a lot of time. You got to commit to it, but it's not difficult. It's not hard. It just takes time.
Yeah.
So hopefully I can get back into that.
No, for sure. And what is your favorite Jewish holiday?
Ooh, I think it's a controversial opinion, but I love Passover. I really do.
Why is that controversial?
I just said, I don't know. I feel like not a lot of people like Passover because you can't eat challah and you can't enjoy all of that. But I love Passover. I love Seders and being with my family. And I think it's a holiday that brings a lot of people together. And so I love Passover. That is my favorite Jewish holiday.
I got to tell you, it's the family is why the family and the tradition and the storytelling, that's the piece of it that people who like Passover like, at least on this podcast. But Passover is a very common answer because it just brings the family together. Like the matzah gets a little old after a while, but it's the family, it's the being together in community. That's the thing that people really, really dig. So
absolutely,
your answer is not that far out of the mainstream
at
least for us.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. I like knowing I'm not alone in that. And I love Haroset too. So I feel
Haroset is, I think, the best food, the best non-matzo ball soup food.
Yes.
of Passover, without question. Did you make it home we just had the Seders. Did you make it home to Milwaukee to be with family?
Yes, it was really nice. I was in Milwaukee. We actually met the rest of my family down in Chicago. So we
Oh,
did
nice.
first night there, and then second night was in Milwaukee, and all my Chicago family drove up to Milwaukee. So we got to do both sides, which was really nice, and be with the family for the first time in really like 2.5 years.
Right.
This was our first Seder that we did in person all together, which was so nice. It's been so long, and it was really wonderful to have everyone together.
I'm going to say first time since, because this happened during, COVID started right around Purim. So it was, I guess, the Seder's in 2019.
Yeah, I remember Seder 2020 doing it over Zoom, and it was so weird. And then 2021, it was a little less weird because we did it the year before, but I'm hoping we never have to go back to a Zoom Seder. That was not fun.
No, I know. I would be fine if we never had to do that again.
Yeah, that
Completely
takes
agree.
all the fun pieces of Passover out when you have to do it over Zoom and you're not with family.
That's right. That's right. Well, Carli Shapiro, we are so excited that you are starting with us at Jewfolk soon, and we look forward to getting to know you more and seeing you more out in the community as things open back up. But we are thrilled to have you, and we're thrilled that you joined me this week. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Lonnie. I'm so excited to get started, and thank you for having me.
The Who the Folk podcast is part of the Jewfolk Podcast Network, a product of Jewfolk Inc. Please subscribe, rate, and review the show wherever you get your podcasts. If you have suggestions for other podcast guests, please email them to me at editor@tcjewfolk.com. For our other shows, check out tcjewfolk.com/podcast.